There's only two changes you'll ever make in your life. It's the ones that you've discovered for yourself or the ones that you're forced to make. That's it. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
It's either what you've seen for yourself and what you're forced, it's kind of getting shoved in your face, right? Like it's right there, which is a lot of my work. You know, I present people with something that you're either going to try and escape from or you're going to push through. But you should know that if you're trying to escape from it, it's still there. You know, like it's amazing how folks, when you confront something as serious as this, they will fight for their misery.
Absolutely.
They'll fight for it. They will argue with you for it. Like I'll say something like this, I'll say, it's not what happened to you, it's what you decided after. And they'll say, no, it's what happened to me. And I'll say, no, it's what you decided after. And they'll say, no, it's what happened to me. Because if that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have had that thought after. And I'll say, well, no, there's 50,000 thoughts you could have had after. You had that one.
And you held on to it.
And you held on to it, and you constructed from there. The benefit of you seeing something like that is, oh, I made the beast. Now, if I made the beast, then I can at the very least come to terms with the beast. But I could create something else.
Absolutely.
Like I have a profound ability to create who the heck I am. You can't get there until you confront and deal with the impact of who you've been. If you can't confront and deal with the impact of who you've been, then it's just like shellac on top of nonsense.
Yes.
Like that. You'll never have the breakthrough that you really have to.
How did you deal with the impact at that age?
Well, it was devastating because it's carnage.
Yeah.
It's carnage. Like, what did I do?
Right. Who did I hurt, or how do I impact people in a negative way?
Right. And then so if you're not fully responsible in that stage of things, you'll take yourself down another rabbit hole. You got to kind of be flat about it. So one of the ways that I did it is this whole notion of who's to blame. So it's a massive part of our makeup as human beings. So if you start with the idea that blame is the anchor to the past. So you're either blaming yourself or somebody else. And that thing, this thing about who's to blame, will ruin you. Like it will ruin you.
Yes.
Right? And I just got like, there's nothing to blame. There's no one to blame. Everybody was doing what they were doing at the time, given their logic. And I responded in a way that I responded given my logic. I'm not making that okay.
Right.
I'm not making a case for any of that. I'm just getting, and that's what's so. And when I could get it that flat, like that's what's so, I noticed there was no charger on it for me.
Yeah.
Like nothing. Even people who have done quote unquote really bad things in my life, like really bad things, that was their logic at the time. As flawed as it was, as messed up as it was.
Yeah, not saying it's okay, not saying you wish you experienced it again.
Right, no. And, you know, like I went through like a similar thing in my childhood, you know, where there was sexual abuse involved. It didn't happen like a ton of times, but it happened. And I look back on it like, when I could see that person's humanity, you know, I wasn't making an excuse for them. I'm not making that okay. But suddenly, like, they were no longer the devil.
Yeah, and I think it's figuring out a way, like you said, not being emotionally charged to a thought or a memory. Because when we are charged emotionally or triggered to a memory or an experience or an event, or we see something that reminds us of that, it pulls us back into fear as opposed to, you know, leading us into love.
Right.
And leading us into a vision greater than the pain or the suffering or the hurt.
Right.
And we have a decision every moment. Do we want to be triggered by our past experiences, or do we want to be healed of the past experiences and focus on a mission greater than the past?
Right. That's great. I mean, if you were to sit down and write out all the stuff that happened, and it filled 10 pages, there's probably only 3 things in it that are what happened. The rest of it is
your interpretation of
your extrapolation, your interpretation, the kind of juice that gets added to it. Most of what's got you is all that stuff. The what happened, the like that thing,
the event,
that thing.
The story about what happened is what kind of holds us back.
Well, yeah, because you know you're inextricably linked to that language. So however you've captured it for yourself, and there's lots of different fields that would break this
Yes.
down for you, but the connection between what you say and how you feel is just there.
Right.
Right. And so you are tied to all of that language, right? Like I used to say, there was this kid at school who bullied me, and it was relentless, and it was incessant, and it was every other day, and it was cruel, and it was da, right? And then I went with, well, there was this kid who used to say things. Which is just, because that's actually what happened.
You can either believe what he was saying, or you don't have to believe
and
it.
all the damage was in how that was kind of captured for me in language.
Yes, how you held on to it.
Very good. So then I got to the point where, like, I really realized how attached I'd become to the
Right.
narrative. Like, attached to the narrative, because it justified this. That narrative justified and explained this. And so I was no longer able to get free of this because I was so attached to that narrative. And so when I broke that down for myself and was able to get a little bit of space about it and really bring a sense of nothingness to it, like, you know, as cruel as it might sound, so what?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Why do you think it's so hard for us to be 100% authentic in relationships?
Yeah. If you would ask somebody about your characteristics, like your personality, for instance, what your strengths might be, that's what you've come across that you feel as if is a good machinery to make it in this life, right? So this is like, you know, maybe I'm charismatic, maybe I'm hardworking, maybe I'm analytical, maybe I'm, you know, competitive, maybe I'm these ways. Somewhere along the lines of your life, you realized this would be a good thing. And this gets me a little further forward.
Gets me a
all of these
result,
elements.
yeah.
Very good. So then there I am in life, being this way, and the more successful it is, the more I'm going to be this way. So now I'm more and more and more like this, to the point where there's no distinction between this thing and me. Like, we're the same now. It's this, there's no line anywhere. It's just all how you would explain yourself now. What you also realize, though, is that those ways don't work everywhere. And so what people call imposter syndrome is basically just the realization that your shtick don't stick. Like, you're like, my stuff don't work here. And so people are like, oh, well, I feel like I'm an imposter. Well, you are in many ways, but not in the way you might think. You are an imposter. There's a you there doing another you. But behind that you really is you.
So how do we get behind that you? How do we break down the thing that's been working for so long, but maybe won't continue to work in the next evolution?
If I'm, for instance, competitive, right, and it's a trait of mine, and it's stood me in good stead, and I've created a life from that, and maybe some success from that, or in my case, hardworking, right? But it could be other things. It could be analytical, and it could be... And this is obviously a kind of... These are ways of being. This is an ontological element, right? Or the element of being a human being. So if I'm competitive, I can point to all the places where that's really done me well, right?
Sports and...
Maybe I'm in sales, right? Or maybe I'm, you know, like I'm building my own business, right? I mean, this is a strength here, right? Yeah, try taking that home.
In relationships, it doesn't work.
It's a crap show, right? Like, it's like, this is not going to work for me.
You know what's fascinating? I would say I defined my identity, a piece of my identity, most of my life as a competitor. Right? Being in sports and using sports as a tool to make myself feel better, to prove the bullies wrong from childhood, all those things, and say, I'm going to make something of myself. I'm going to win at all costs in sports and things like that. I started early in my 20s to translate that into business. And it worked in a sense.
Yes.
But it left me feeling more, I don't know, against people than it was with people.
All right, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Right, so there you are, and you were having an experience that this competitiveness actually wasn't working for you.
Right, it wasn't.
Right,
It was getting results in some way, but not results in the other ways.
Right, and so you're starting to see something there, though, that's really interesting to me, and that is, here you are being yourself, but hold on a minute. Is this myself?
And why am I suffering inside? And why am I going through these challenges?
Right, so I want to know is, what's the thing that's suffering then? Like, what's that?
Yeah, I guess it was the identity that this isn't working, like who I am or the way I'm being isn't working fully. It's
Right.
working partially to get certain results, but it's not creating peace inside.
All right, so I would flip it the other way. I would flip it the other way, look at it from the other direction. That is, it's fine for this competitive expression, but not okay for you.
Absolutely.
And it's the you that I'm interested in. I'm interested in that. Because that thing right there, what matters to that thing? And so you actually pointed to it. So the thing that mattered to you then was people.
Absolutely.
But you see how like that competitiveness was now the barrier between you
Absolutely.
and people. You've lost sight of where you took the turn. So a lot of the times with people, it's you got to begin with really addressing how you got where you are, but not in the kind of typical way you would explain that, like, we don't get along anymore, or I got fired, or my business went down. No, there was some fundamental